to miss a second of it.
Now here's just one example of automation. This is the MPP 500 pallet pool, which is integrated to the HCN 4000 horizontal machining centre. The idea behind this, of course, is you can either have 6, 10 or 16 pallets. You can load the pallets up, essentially keep the machine running 24/7. Just one example of Mazak's automation. Now over to Joe, who's at the quick turn.
So I'm here in front of a quick turn lathe from Mazak, and it's actually got this, what appears to be quite a straightforward integration of a robot. But what I find interesting, if you look at the component, it's fairly complicated. It's actually coming off complete. But what you don't realise, it's only got one spindle. It hasn't got spindle 1 and spindle 2 or sub-spindle. What's actually happening is the robot is putting it onto a docking station, which allows the robot to rotate it and put it back into spindle 1 and essentially finish the component. And what I also like about this machine, it's ergonomic, it replaces an operator, all the things we know about automation, but it's on a very, very small footprint. Speaking of small footprint, let's go and speak with Gio.
Cheers, Joe. Well, good things come in small packages, and the Variaxis i300 AWC is a perfect example of this. It comes with up to 40 pallets. It's the smallest footprint in its class. And you would think that it would just lend itself to high volume work, but no, think again. This also lends itself to low volume work. It's an extremely flexible 5th axis machine, fully automated with HSK tooling as standard, but lots of different options as well. Now I think Lyndsey's over at the multiplex, so let's go and find out what she's up to.
Thanks, Gio. So I'm standing in front of the Multiplex W200Y with a gantry loader on the side. So let me take you through the journey of the part. Within here, you'll find you've got rough billets and finished parts. Not at the moment, but eventually. So let me take you on that journey. The rough billet will get picked up via the gantry loader, lifted up into the first spindle. This is like a mirrored machine. So you've got the first spindle here, which will be machining the part. Then what happens within the machine, the chuck lifts off that machine part and then puts it onto the second spindle. In the meantime, the gantry loader's lifted up a rough billet and put it onto the first spindle. When the part that is finished on the second spindle is complete, the gantry loader will then pick it up and bring it back over to where the rough billets and the finished parts are. An automated solution that is perfect for your turn parts and repeatability. Wow, what a start. So don't forget there's heaps coming up in the show. We've just seen Mazak's own integrated machinery solutions in regards to automation, but we'll also be covering third parties' automated solutions that were on show at the event, as well as talking to a couple of very well established, successful automation implementing companies who were privileged enough to present at Mazak over the 2-day event. Automation really does work, whether you're a small, medium or large manufacturing business. So let's start with what we saw from Mazak themselves. We picked 4, but there were far more machines on show. Weren't there, gents?
Yeah, there was. There was a lot more than the 4 we spoke about. But I think for me it was very evident that if you turned up at the show as an engineer, regardless of whether you were machining castings, billets, bar, there was a solution there.
Yes.
And I think for me, a couple of the highlights, in fact, the two that we did look at there was the quick turn that Joe, I think you described that fantastically well, actually. I think it's small footprint, it's ergonomicness, and the fact you don't necessarily have to have a twin spindle machine to machine a part complete. And of course, Geo's as well, the AWC. Not saying that yours wasn't anything, of course, but I thought Geo's AWC, small footprint 5-axis machine.
Yeah, and what you get with Mazak, of course, they make lots and lots of their own technology, but I like the fact they bring their partners in. They're not too afraid to bring their partners in as well. Yeah. And automation, it's like the next big thing. It's been around since, the 1930s, but, it hasn't really been widely adopted, has it? Certainly in this country.
Yeah, that's actually what they were saying about in this country. You've got... on a scale, they showed a chart of which countries and how much they automate, and the charts are there, and we're
incredible,
down there.
Wasn't it?
I think we are starting to catch up now, though, and I think people are starting to embrace automation because of the productivity gains that you get, and I think that Mazak were illustrating that.
We're not in the top 25 globally.
Not yet.
But there was a automatic burger making machine.
Did you enjoy them? I didn't see any.
Which ran out.
It's always food. It's always food, isn't it? Right, so coming up in just a few...
Your jokes are automated.
Stop it. Stop it. Right,
Very
okay.
efficient jokes.
Right, coming up in a few minutes, we're going to hear from Alan Mucklow, Mazak's MD, as well as hearing from John Hyde and DMM in engineering. An unmissable endorsement. Don't forget, you've got to subscribe to NTD's channel to be involved within the conversation. Okay, so we've heard from Mazak products, but let's see about Mazak's partners products who were on show at the event.
As well as the Mazak machines, obviously there is automation solutions here from third parties, including FANUC. Oliver, what have we got behind us here? What's this actually doing, this robot?
So we have a FANUC CR7 collaborative robot with a 3D area scanner, bin picking, loading also the Mazak machine.
Right, and how's the vision system working on it? How does it know where the parts are? Because that's part of this too, isn't it?
Okay, so yeah, FANUC have their own range of vision systems, both in 2D and 3D, and this one in particular has a stereo vision system with a projected light source. And what this gives us is a point cloud over the surface of the parts in the box, and we then pattern match and find the parts from that.
Wow, how reliable is it? I mean, does it ever go wrong? Because robots are supposed to be, the future, aren't they? The automation, as the word says.
Yeah, so the vision system is as reliable as you make it. I mean, from a very, very basic setup, which can be done in maybe 30 minutes to an hour, it will pick parts. The longer you spend defining strategies for what happens if, the more reliable it will be.
Okay, and also on this particular unit here, what we're doing is we're loading the machine and then we're unloading, aren't we? So we're picking a part up, and they're randomly orientated as well. How does it know which one to pick next?
Yeah, so the vision system has a whole bunch of strategies, as I said, that allow you to define whether you're going to pick the highest part in the box, the part in the top left-hand corner, and define strategies that way.
And this is another perfect example of the collaboration between Mazak and their partners with the FANUC robot, the Renishaw Equator and the Mazak Quick Turn. All three pieces of equipment are talking and communicating to each other, all being interfaced with the machine seamlessly. And it's giving a full solution, complete solution in regards to loading, deloading and inspection.
I think with automation, one of the issues is always loading up call it that box there to then have the automation process. But of course, with the point cloud and the way it picks up the parts randomly wherever they're positioned,
aren't they? They're all that
the irregularity takes away that operator to have to load that box. Just dump the bar in there and it picks it up, knows where it is, puts it in the machine. And it's the next stage, and that is a portable solution, can be moved from that machine to another machine in the works.
So does the Equator talk to the CNC control? Will it change sizes on the machine?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's they're all communicating together. So it's an in-cycle solution. So I believe, just to confirm, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it can change and compensate for offsets.
It's basically bin picking, and that's not what Colin does on a Saturday night. But it generally is that the robot into it picks the part and moves it, as you've seen on the videos.
It is.
Fabulous.
It's so interesting.
And these cobots, no guarding at all. It's great, isn't it? You can walk straight up to that robot and
just stops.
And also with it being portable, it's flexible. So for example, if that machine doesn't need to be automated, but another one does, potentially you could move it to another machine.
And it means you might not need to buy a machine that's got twin spindles and all the rest of it.
No, because
you've got the robot to do the hard work.
Right, okay. Continuing on this theme, interestingly, I talked to Matt from ABB. So watch this for flexible automation loader. And when we come back, we'll be discussing automation on tooling innovation from Sandvik. And don't forget, two very proud engineers talk to us about their automation experiences. So I'm here with Matt Rollins from ABB Robotics, and I think Matt's off to play golf later on today.
With a bit of luck.
It's the trousers. I like the trousers, Matt. They look good. So, but realistically, what we're here for is automation. I was talking about repeatability earlier, but this is very different.
Yeah, this is about flexibility. What we have here is an SC3000 system, all in one box. Put it in front of a machine tool or even two machine tools. Load the parts up on the belt. We've got an in-feed belt for parts coming in and the out-feed for finished parts coming out. Flexibility means that you can put any part on it as long as it'll fit on the belt.
So what's the vision system then?
The vision system, there's a camera just mounted up behind here, and it's looking at what parts are coming along the belt. The beauty of this system is it takes about 5 minutes to program, not using any robot program. This is all done graphically on this screen that you can see here. We program that part in, and then once that's programmed in, it's programmed in for life. The operator calls the part up, and whatever part that we put on the belt, the robot will be able to pick up without any special tooling that's required on the belt.
Well, you can see all the images up here, you know, replicating it. So going forward then, once it's picked the part up, you've got two access points. Why is this?
Yeah, so what we've got here, this is simulating feeding one machine. If we had two machines, right where you're standing, Lyndsey, would be the second machine. Yep. You'd open those doors, and that would then create the safety to be able to load to this machine. In this situation, I could sit here and set up this machine tool here.
And then, of course, on the other side as well.
Exactly.
And are there limitations to the parts that you can load onto this machine?
Pretty much, as long as we can fit it on the belt, from parts that big to parts that big, we can feed them. This robot is limited to 10 kilos, but we have robots that go to 20, 45, and even 60 kilos with different variants of this model.
Definitely worth speaking to ABB about. Just to finalise, we've got a double conveyor, so what's happening underneath?
So we've got the parts coming out, so all the finished parts are coming out. The idea is an operator will load this belt up, they can go away, do other tasks, come back, top the belt up and unload the belt from the bottom, and that gives them lots of production, and even sort of once they finish the day shift, they can carry on working.
Job done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Cheers.
Didn't I do well?
Cracking job.
Is the vision system the future, where it actually takes an image? Is that
It has
where
to be. It's
going?
like the FANUC system we saw there. Essentially, before you'd had to have that operator to load the parts. You're getting rid of that now. I've seen that machine working in conjunction with various machine tools, but I just think it's small, it's flexible, and how many engineers do we know that are machining castings that are regular and they could automate?
Yeah.
Everyone should have one. But another question we're going to get asked, do you go for that solution or that solution? And there's pros and cons against each, I guess.
I absolutely love this solution, and the reason why is because it's just so simple. The simplicity of this solution it's fantastic. It's simple.
And they do as they're told, don't they? Robots just do as they're told.
But even with
they
the
don't get bored.
conveyor and just loading, picking, so easy. Anyone can do it.
Yeah. So don't forget, coming up shortly, I'm going to be speaking with Alan Mucklow and Mazak users, as well as geo-finding or seeing, excuse the pun, another vision system, this time with Brown and Holmes.
But before that, let's go and take a look at the video I shot with Sandvik Coromant. So this event here at Mazak, it's about automation, but that doesn't just mean robotics, pick and place robots. We're here to talk to Sandvik about tooling. So this is your new development of silent tools. What's new?
The new thing is that we have combined our silent tools with the embedded sensors. And we have also extended the reach of the overhang to 17 times D.
So this is actually 17 times diameter of the bore.
That is 7 times diameter of the boring bar.
Okay, and this has got sensors, so this is communicating with the machine tool somehow.
Yeah, this is the first time we have integrated this solution with the Mazak Integrax.
So can we have a look at the screen?
Yeah, if you look at the screen, I can hit the bar and you will see the load will be activated on the display.
And you can set different parameters. So maybe as the harmonics increase, you can turn the machine off so the insert doesn't fail and maybe scrap a component.
Yeah, you can set the threshold for the vibration and the load. So the operator can have a full insight in what is going on into the bore behind closed door when it's in cut.
And I'm just looking at this. It's 17 times diameter, that bore. I can't think of another way. I know there's deep hole drilling, but this has got to be the most efficient and most secure way of producing this bore.
Yeah, I think this is definitely one very efficient and productive way to make complicated bores in tricky components.
Yeah, Joe, a really good interview. Can you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, well, automation, it's not just about taking a component from A to B. This is obviously a cutting tool solution. The idea is you don't want the operator stood at the machine tool. So the boring bar is actually communicating with the Mazak control. It's actually got an app built into the machine tool. So the harmonics, the vibration of that tool, it's predicting tool wear, it's predicting, more importantly, tool breakage. It can measure surface finish. And it does all that without operator intervention.
I used to have to bore liners on like engine blocks on big diesel engines, and this would have been fantastic for that. I think it's an incredible solution. The communication.
You'd have been unemployed.
Yeah, well, I was sacked anyway because I scrapped them. If I'd have had that, I wouldn't have scrapped them. I think it's fantastic.
But joking aside, you imagine that data's coming from a database. It has to be. So you imagine you fast forward 2 or 3 years, sandpickers are collecting all this data to be able to predict everything.
Yeah.
Just quickly touching on what Joe says, it just illustrates that automation is not just about taking apart, putting it in and taking it out. It's about keeping the machine running. And also, can you believe it or not, that boring bar, the size of that boring bar, the machine is accommodating for that and tool changing. I think they've accommodated for it specially.
I didn't see that. I'd love to have seen that because that is something else as well.
And just finally, we're not just talking about aluminium. That could be like the list of materials. It's non-exhaustive. It's huge. So yeah, it's
an
clever.
interesting one.
Yeah, definitely. So next up, we're going to be heading over to Geo's find with Brown & Holmes, and there was plenty more on show at the event, including bar feeding solutions from Iemca, tooling from Hymer. But Geo, what did you learn about these before we cut to the Brown & Holmes video?
Yeah, well, the actual Brown & Holmes robot that they've introduced, their already extensive portfolio, further complements their range, but also this actual robot is the first in the world, I believe, with built-in vision. And let's just watch the video really to find out a little bit more.
Now, we're here at the Mazak Automation event in Worcester, Chris. You're showcasing your own automation solution. What do we have here?
We've got the world's first collaborative robot with built-in vision.
Now, the built-in vision is the unique part of this robot. There are many robots about. What's so unique about the built-in vision and how does it improve the process?
It's the integration between a camera and the robot, and it's operated via a single screen.
In layman terms, does that mean it's simplifying the process and speeding up the programming and simplifying the programming?
We're offering a smart, simple and safe solution to any problem.
No, that's brilliant. Now, I'd like to see these in the field, Chris, so we'll see a lot more of Brown & Holmes in the coming weeks.
And that is correct. You will see a lot more of Brown & Holmes in the coming weeks because they're in the studio next week for a Brown & Holmes Swarf and Chips takeover show.
Oh.
So make sure you watch, subscribe, and give us your thoughts on the collaborative robot with built-in vision and why you think it's unique.
Yeah, that's going to be definitely a great show. I'm looking forward to it. But what's really interesting is the next couple of videos. We're going to be talking to 2 of the Mazak embracers of automation who presented during the open days that may serve as a shot in the arm to manufacturers that are currently struggling to make profit and improve productivity. It's going to be great for you to hear from these companies who were on the edge, but by taking the plunge into automation with Mazak has not just revolutionized revolutionised their business, but most importantly in the early days kept them from trading and stopped them shutting up shop. So I'm with John Hyde from John Hyde Engineering, and I too have been walking around the event asking a lot of people a lot of questions. And the one thing that I've heard is how sincere your presentation was. So what was it that you were talking about?
Well, I'm not clever enough to be insincere, that's the first thing. I was talking about our experience of rising from the ashes, or they would have been the ashes had we carried on the way we were, and embracing automation in a very narrow field, but it has in fact enabled us to transform the company into one which was barely surviving, into one that's prospering and growing strongly.
So Laura, you've been asked to do a presentation here at Mazak. What was the presentation?
So Mazak asked us to present today on behalf of DMM about our CNC suites and how we've had our various integrations of the setup we have and how that's affected our part production at DMM.
And how has it affected production?
So Dave would be the best person to give you the details on that, but it's from going to sort of 50% sort of running capacity up to near 96%, and from a part where the CNC department used to hold back production at DMM and would sort of be a bit of a bottleneck to being, the forging now is having to catch up with the CNC department.
Now, what advice would you give to somebody who's teetering on the edge of thinking, I'm ready for automation, I need it? What are the pros, what are the cons?
Well, the disadvantages are you have to decide to spend a lot of money without being able to see through the fog. The advantages are that it forces you to be disciplined, and as we were, and to use every little tiny advantage that you can get from it. And that means you use the machine's capabilities to avoid mistakes, like broken tool detect, like probing to see whether the clamp's there. Little things like that, which cost you more in cycle time, but they save you tens of hours and tens of thousands if you didn't do them.
So David, how has it affected your business?
In terms of output, we've been able to double our monthly output from 70,000 parts to 140,000 per month. We're able to run more products on our machines, from single products on a single vertical machine up to 5 or 6 different products on each machine, and the pallet tech has enabled us to balance the line in terms of what we can produce, when we produce it, and switch on and off our production demand.
So any regrets?
Yes, the one regret we have is that we didn't foresee that there'd be fewer people wanting to work nights, and we would have solved that problem by buying the high-rise version and having more pallets, so we could run more machines through the night without manual intervention.
Well, hindsight is a wonderful thing, but where are you now with automation?
We're looking at robot loading next for these rather awkward and variable shaped parts that we produce. At last, there is some hope that camera vision on the robot will enable us to manipulate it and load it.
There has got to be so many companies out there that are going through the same journey and they haven't quite taken the plunge.
The one thing I would say about this is these videos were quite short, but if you actually look on the MTD CNC website, there's the full version of these interviews, and it's fascinating because one point that was not picked up on here, which I took note from, was the fact that their parts now cost the same as they did in 2001 to their customers, directly as a
bit like our price list.
Yes, yeah, they could. Very true, very true. You working on a different one too? But yeah, it just shows you that by embracing this automation, it's enabled them to remain competitive and keep their customers happy.
That's what it's about. And I'll tell you what I find, you talk to end users and they may be a little scared, a little reticent to actually embrace automation. It's the opposite way around. You should be scared not to embrace automation, in my opinion. It's been around a long time, but you're not going to be competitive. You're just not. People don't want a stand-up machine tool anymore. They just don't. So get a robot to do it.
I think, touching on what me and Joe talked about yesterday, actually, and taking the plunge, I think if you don't make the change, you'll always stay the same. Now, everyone is evolving to move forward. You need to make changes. You need to embrace new technology to move forward. And the people that are embracing new technology are the most successful companies. DMM, For example,
You can't plateau. You've got to keep pushing forward.
And John, I was there at John Hyde a few weeks ago, and they're just installing another FMS system. So just goes to show you don't do that unless you know.
And just one more point. This is a perfect example of two spectrums, very large parts and very small parts. And it shows you can automate pretty much anything.
Large, small.
Oh dear, every single time. So we are going to end the show on a sweet spot. I'm going to be talking to Alan Mucklow. I asked him a few questions about automation in general and with Mazak too. Next week's show, we've got Brown and Holmes here. We're going to be talking fixturing, work holding, as Gio said. There's loads going to be happening on the show. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. And now, Alan, it's over to you. Don't forget, keep those spindles turning.
So why would you choose Mazak over one of our competitors, for example? Well, the real reason, from as far as we're concerned, is you can go from a very standard offering right through to a very bespoke, defined solution. And that's done in conjunction with our own design staff, the AMS group, or in conjunction with our partners, be it FANUC, KUKA, ABB, or Indunorm, for example, which we're exhibiting here this week.